عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. After Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He describes for us the state of the people of Iman and the state of the people of light in the hereafter. Then He shifts His attention to the second class of people that I mentioned, those who will be given light at a certain stage on the day of judgment. However, that light will not endure and it will be taken away from them. And this is the people of nifaq, the people of hypocrisy. As the narration says in Muslim on the authority of Jaaber, he said, the Prophet ﷺ said, وَيُعْطَى كُلُّ إِنسَانٍ مِّنْهُمْ مُنَافِقٍ أَوْ مُسْلِمٍ نُور or نُورًا. He said, each one of them from the two classes, from the believers and also from the hypocrites, they will be given light. However, he continues saying, ثُمَّ يَطْفَأُ نُورُ الْمُنَافِقِ. Then at some point, the light of the munafiq, it will be taken away at the moment when they need it the most, and this is when they are actually arriving at the sirat. And Imam al-Baghawi, he said that this is actually the meaning of the verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, يُخَادِعُونَ اللَّهَ وَهُوَ خَادِعُهُمْ. That they seek to deceive Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, while in fact it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is deceiving them. That they pretended to be people of light. And they gave the impression that they were with the people of light in this life. And so in the hereafter, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give them now the impression that they are people of light until their hopes are at its highest. And they think they have actually profited from their deception. And then in that particular moment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will snatch away their light. And at this, the believers will become nervous and they will become worried for their own light. And so Ibn Kathir and Sa'di and other mufassirin, they said this is when they are actually going to make the supplication, رَبَّنَا أَتْمِمْ لَنَا نُورَنَا وَاغْفِرْ لَنَا, seeking the perfection of their light from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they're worried after what they have witnessed, that their light too is going to be snatched away. And I want us to notice the instinct of the believer on the day of judgment. The one who put in time in this life, building that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, building that habit of calling on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It was their habit in this life, and now it is their instinct on the day of judgment. Compare that now to the instinct of the people of nifaq, who did not put in that time and that work building that connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They did not spend that time calling on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala imanan wa ihtisaban, sincerely out of iman, sincerely hoping for the reward with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so their instinct in the life to come is not to call directly on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, rather they will call out to the believers instead. They used to position themselves amongst the people so that they could take some type of social benefits. And this will show up in the next life as well. يَقُولُ الْمُنَافِقُونَ وَالْمُنَافِقَاتُ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا انظُرُونَا. Instead of calling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the only one who can provide them light in that moment, they will call out to the believers instead, and they will say, انظُرُونَا نَقْتَبِسْ مِن نُورِكُمْ. انظُرُونَا, which some have translated to mean, look at us, look in our direction so that we can benefit from your light. As Sa'di and Ibn Kathir, he says, no, the meaning is actually intadhiruna, which means wait up for us. And this is significant. Why? Because the characteristic of the people of nifaq in this life is that they would lag behind. They would not go out on the campaigns with the Prophet ﷺ, and they would drag their feet to the salah, and they would come in a state of laziness, kusala. And so just as they were not able to endure in this life and keep up with the believers in this life, they will not be able to endure in the hereafter and keep up with the believers in the hereafter as well. And then they will say to the believers, Alam nakum ma'akum, were we not with you? And this is the scariest part of the verse for me, because this is not your colleague at work, this is not your classmate at school, but this is someone that used to pray, and someone that used to fast, and they had the wudu, and they had the Quran, and they had all of the asbab, the reasons that would guarantee them light in the life to come. However, they did 4 things that this verse mentions that caused their light to be extinguished. As the believers, they will respond, قَالُوا بَلَى, yes, of course, you were with us. وَلَكِنَّكُمْ فَتَنْتُمْ أَنفُسَكُمْ وَتَرَبَّصْتُمْ وَارْتَبْتُمْ وَغَرَّتْكُمُ الْأَمَانِي. They say that you fatantum anfusakum, which means that you led yourself or you exposed yourself to temptation and sin. And fatantum anfusakum also linguistically, it means that you expose yourself to fire. And the connection is that those who expose themselves to temptation and sin in this life, in reality what they are doing, they're exposing themselves to fire in the next life. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He actually uses this meaning in the Quran when He says, يَوْمَ هُمْ عَلَى النَّارِ يُفْتَنُونَ ذُوقُوا فِتْنَتَكُمْ هَذَا الَّذِي كُنْتُمْ بِهِ تَسْتَعْجِلُونَ. So they exposed themselves to sin, meaning that this was their choice, and they did this to themselves. And the second characteristic, tarabbastum. They had a type of enmity towards the believers. They had a grudge towards the believing people, and they hoped that, or they anticipated the demise and the downfall of believing people, when they should have been doing the opposite. Despite their differences, despite, the shortcomings, they should have loved their believing brothers and sisters for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and as a result, they would have attained a type of light in the hereafter that the prophets and the martyrs will even be impressed by. And that is the light of those who love one another for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there is no favor between them, and there is no blood relationship, and they have no business transaction. They only love one another for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and this is the purest type of love. And so on the day of judgment, they will have the purest type of light that even the prophets and the martyrs will be impressed by. And then وَارْتَبَتُمْ means that they wavered as a result of their doubts. Lingering doubts living inside of their hearts, causing them to waver, causing them to hesitate. Unresolved doubts, unresolved questions. We have to be mindful, and we have to take care that if we have questions, if we have controversy that we don't understand, then we have to resolve it here and now, because this is something that could dim our light in the life to come. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِاللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ ثُمَّ لَمْ يَرْتَابُوا. The true believers are those who believed in Allah and His messenger, and they did not have this characteristic of wavering as a result of doubt. وَغَرَّتْكُمُ الْأَمَانِي. And their false hopes and their false expectations deluded them. They thought they would be able to pretend themselves all the way to paradise, right? And so they failed to actually do the things that will perfect and protect their light in the life of this world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make all of us from the people of enduring light in the life to come. Ameen. And may He protect us from all of the qualities that will diminish our light in this life and also in the next. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik wa ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Assalamu alaikum.